Sure. Hello. Good evening. Get into the chilly fall time. Welcome to Captain Party's story time. This evening we will be reading chapter 18 in Choke. My next visit, my mom's thinner, if that's possible. And her neck looks as small around as my wrist. The yellow skin sunk into the deep hollows behind her cords and throat. Her face doesn't hide the skull inside, and she rolls her head to one side so she can see me in the doorway, and some kind of gray jelly is caked in the corners of each eye. The blankets are slack and tented, empty between the two peaks of her hip bones. The only other landmarks you can recognize are her knees. She twines one terrible arm through the chrome bed rail, terrible and thin as a chicken foot, reaching towards me, and she swallows. Her jaws work with effort, her lips webbed with spit, and then she says, reaching out, she says it, "Morty," she says, "I am not a pimp." And her hands knotted in fists, she shakes them in the air and says, "I'm making a feminist statement. How can it be prostitution if all the women were dead?" I'm here, and with a nice bunch of flowers and a get well card. This is right after work, so I'm in my breeches and waistcoat. My buckle shoes and the cloak stockings that show off my skinny calves are spattered with mud. And my mom says, "Morty, you have to get the whole case thrown out of the court." And she sighs back into her pillow. Drool from her mouth has turned the white pillowcase light blue where it meets the side of her face. A get well card is not going to fix this. And her hand claws the air and she says, "Oh, and Morty, you need to call Victor." And her room has that smell, the same smell as Jenny's tennis shoes in September after he's worn them all summer without socks. And a nice bunch of flowers will not even make a dent in this. In my waistcoat pocket is her diary. Stuck in the diary is a past due bill from the care center. I stick the flowers in her bedpan while I go and hunt for a vase and maybe something to feed her. As much of that chocolate pudding stuff as I can carry, something I can spoon into her mouth and make her swallow. The way she looks, I can't bear to be here, and I can't bear not to be here. And as she leaves, she says, "You've got to get busy and find Victor. You have to make him help Dr. Marshall, please. He has to help Dr. Marshall to save me. And if anything ever happens by accident, outside in the hallway is Paige Marshall, wearing her glasses, reading something off a clipboard. I just thought she'd like to know," she says, and she leans back against the handrail that lines the hallway, and she says, "Your mother is down to 85 pounds this week." And she moves the clipboard behind her back, gripping it in the handrail with both hands. The way she stands, puts her breasts forward, tilts her pelvis at me. Paige Marshall runs her tongue along the inside of her bottom lip and says, "Have you ever thought any more about taking some action?" Life support, tube feeding, artificial respirators. In medicine, they call this stuff heroic measures. "I don't know," I say. And we stand there, waiting for each other, just to give 1 inch. Two smiling old ladies wander past us, and one points and says to the other, "That's the nice young man I told you about. He's the one who strangled my pet cat." And the other lady, Her sweater is buttoned wrong, and she says, "You don't say," she says. "He beat my sister almost to death one time." And they wander away. "It's sweet," Dr. Marshall says, "what you're doing. I mean, you're giving these people completion on the biggest issues in their lives." And the way she looks right now, you have to think about 1,000,000 multiple car pileups. You have to imagine 2 bloodmobiles colliding head-on. The way she looks, you'd have to think of mass graves to even log 30 seconds in the saddle. Think of spoiled cat food and ulcerated cankers, expired donor organs. That's how beautiful she looks. If she'll excuse me, I still need to find some pudding. She says, Is it that you have a girlfriend? Is that the reason? The reason why we didn't have sex in the chapel a few days ago? The reason why, even with her naked and ready, I couldn't? The reason why I ran? For a complete listing of other girlfriends, please refer to my 4th step. See also Nico. See also Lisa. See also Tanya. Dr. Marshall tilts her pelvis at me and says, "Do you know how most patients like your mother die?" They starve. They forget how to swallow, and they breathe food. They drink it into their lungs by accident. Their lungs fill with rotting matter and liquid, and they develop pneumonia, and they die. I say, I know. I say, maybe there's worse things you can do than just letting somebody die. Well, this isn't just some old person, Paige Marshall says. This is your mother. And she's almost 70 years old. She's 62, Paige says. If there's anything you can do to save her, and you don't, then you're killing her with neglect. In other words, I say, I should do you. I've heard about your track record from some of the nurses, Paige Marshall says. I know you have no issues around recreational sex. Or is it just me? Am I just not your type? Is that it? And the two of us get quiet. A certified nurse's aide walks past, pushing a cart of bundled sheets and damp towels. Her shoes have rubber soles and the cart has rubber wheels. The floor is an ancient cork tile polish, dark with traffic. So she goes by without a sound, just stale, trailing urine smell. Don't get me wrong, I say. I want to fuck you. I really want to fuck you. Down the hall, the nurse's aide stops and looks back at us, and she says, "Hey, Romeo, why don't you give poor Dr. Marshall a break, huh?" And Paige says, "It's fine, Miss Parks. This is between Mr. Mancini and myself." And we both stare back until she smirks and pushes her cart off around the next corner. Her name's Irene Parks. And yeah, okay, we did it in her car in the parking lot about this time last year. See also Karen, RN. See also Janine, CNA. At the time, I thought each of them was going to be somebody special, but without their clothes, they could have been anybody. And now her ass is about as inviting as a pencil sharpener. To Dr. Paige Marshall, I say, "There. You are so wrong," I say. "I want to fuck you so bad I can taste it," I say. And no, I don't want anybody to die. But I don't want my mom back in the way that she's been. And Paige Marshall exhales, and she sucks her mouth into a tight little knot, and she just glares at me. And she holds her clipboard to her chest with her arms crossed over it. "So," she says, "this hasn't anything to do with sex. You just don't want your mother to recover. You just can't deal with strong women, and you think that if she dies, then your issue with her will also die." And from her room, my mom calls, "Morty, what am I paying you for?" And Paige Marshall says, "You can lie to my patients and complete their life conflicts, but don't lie to yourself." And then she says, "And don't lie to me." Paige Marshall says, You'd rather see her dead than see her recover. And I say, yes, no, I don't know. All my life I've been less my mother's child than her hostage, the subject of her social and political experiments, her own private lab rat, and now she's mine. And she's not going to escape by dying or getting better. I just want one person I can rescue. I want one person who needs me, who can't live without me. I want to be a hero, but not just one time. Even if it means keeping her crippled, I want to be somebody's constant savior. I know. This sounds terrible, I say. But I don't know. This is what I think. And here's where I should tell Paige Marshall what I really think. I'm just tired of being all wrong all the time. Just because I'm a guy. How many times can everybody tell you that you're the oppressive, prejudiced enemy before you give up and become the enemy? A male chauvinist pig isn't born. He's made. And more of them are being made by women every day. After long enough, you just roll over and accept the fact that you're a sexist, bigoted, insensitive, crude, cretinous cretin. And women are right, and you're wrong. And you get used to the idea, and you live down to the expectations. Even if the shoe doesn't fit, you'll shrink into it. In a world without God, aren't mothers the new God? The last sacred, unassailable position? Isn't motherhood the last perfect magical miracle? But a miracle that's impossible for men. And maybe men say they're glad not to give birth, all the pain and blood, but really that's just so much sour grapes. And for sure men can't do anything near as incredible. Upper body strength, abstract thought, phalluses, any advantage men appear to have, they're pretty token. You can't even hammer a nail with a phallus. And women are already born so far ahead ability-wise. The day that a man can give birth, that's when we can start talking about equal rights. But I don't tell Paige any of that. Instead I say, I just want to be one person's guardian. One person's guardian angel. Revenge isn't the right word, but it's the first thing that comes to mind. Then save her by fucking me, says Dr. Marshall. But I don't want her saved all the way, I say. I'm terrified of losing her, but if I don't, I may lose myself. Then there's still my mom's red diary in my coat pocket, and there's still the chocolate pudding to get. You don't want her to die, Paige says, and you don't want her to recover. Just what do you want? I want somebody who can read Italian, I say. And Paige says, like what? Here, I say, and I show her the diary. It's my mom's. It's Italian. And Paige takes the book and leaps through it. Her ears look red and excited around the edges. I took 4 years of Italian as an undergrad, she says. I can tell you what it says. I just want to keep control, I say, for a change. I just want to be an adult. And still leafing through the book, Dr. Paige Marshall says, you want to keep her weak, so you're always the one in charge. She looks up to me and says, it sounds as if you'd like to be God. Well, that was our chapter for this evening. The crickets are out. The rats are coming out too. I hope you all have a lovely evening. See you next time.